What if when you die, you get asked, so, how was it in heaven? What if this existence we have on earth as men is actually it? Maybe there is an afterlife, but maybe there isn't. What if that was the case? How would you live then? What choices would you make regarding your dating and your relationship life? If you saw a lady that you were interested in, would you let the opportunity go by, or would you go and introduce yourself? If there was a new business venture you wanted to start, a new job, you wanted to lose some weight, you wanted to get into shape, you wanted to do a holiday trip with your male best friends, would you stay in your little comfort zone? Would you do what's safe, or would you do what's bold? Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Now, I'm the last person to say that just go and do it, just go and do the approach. It's as easy as that. Yeah, thanks, Nike. It's a bit more complicated than that. Then just do it. There are systematic components that create momentum, that even allow us to do an approach. There is a skill set component to it. But from a mindset perspective, I would like to offer you this idea that I heard Tobias Beck, who's maybe the most famous German motivational speaker, talk about. What if this was heaven? What if, just as a hypothetical argument, this is as good as it gets? You, 20 years of age, 60 years of age, 40, 50, 30, where you are right now, this is as good as it gets. This existence on this planet. How would you choose to live then? What if you could not fail? What if you weren't afraid? What would you do then? You would probably write down a list of must-haves, nice-haves, and deal breakers. What do I actually want from an amazing woman in a relationship? You would aim high in the first place. Les Brown says, most people fail in life, not because they aim too high and miss, but because they aim too low and hit. Most men, Henry David Thoreau says, live lives of quiet desperation. They never aim high. Walk down the street, look most men in the eye. They pretend there's something afterwards. They're not milking this existence. And to be honest, you've probably done well in a lot of areas. Maybe your business, maybe your career, perhaps a hobby, maybe your fitness. But you haven't fully applied that to your dating and your relationship life yet. You know this more. Wayne Dyer says the difference between people who are self-actualizing and others is that they must be what they can be. They must be what they can be. One of the reasons I'm such a big fan of learning to approach in person, it's not about becoming a player or going on hundreds of dates. It is a means to find a quality relationship, obviously, because it'll supply you with quality dates. But even more than that, you will face the dragon that you've been afraid to face your entire life. Most men think they're good at talking to women, and most men also think they're good at fighting. They're not good at either. They do anything not to go and do the approach. They'll do anything. They'll come up with all kinds of excuses. Yeah, I'll do it later. She looks a little bit too serious. She's too attractive. She's not attractive enough. I only have 5 minutes. Blah, blah, blah. It's all nonsense. It's all excuses. There's only 2 reasons you're not doing the approaches. There's approach anxiety. There's a lack of skill set. The approach anxiety, you overcome with progressive desensitization. You gradually increase the attractiveness of the ladies you speak to, and then you increase the difficulty of the approach itself. It works every single time. Boom! That's approach anxiety gone. And then on the other hand, there's a skill set. How do I create emotional relevance? How do I open? How do I create a man-to-woman connection? What is push-pull? What is teasing? What is a shit test? These are all technical mechanics that you can absolutely learn. You're a man who has learned the meta habit of learning. So you can learn this skill set as well. But I would like you to understand that 80% of success in anything is mindset. And one mindset that I'm offering you here, in addition to squeezing the juice out of life and truly living in a bold way, is that if you actually put yourself out there, you will self-actualize. You will empty yourself out energetically. You will do the thing you were afraid to do. How do I build self-respect? How do I increase my self-esteem? You do the hard thing. You do the thing you were afraid to do, because fear works like walls. If you're afraid to do something and then you don't do it, it builds invisible walls. And then you won't go to that place. You're not going to give the presentation. You won't introduce yourself. And life shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And then you wonder why you don't feel as good as you could. Well, because you haven't broken through fear. There's 3 possible scenarios, 3 possible reactions to fear. Fight, flight, or paralysis. I would encourage you to train the meta habit to look whatever you're afraid of in the eye and go right through it. Just because you're afraid, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. There are certain fears that you're faced with in life that prevent you from dying, obviously. But most fears, like approach anxiety, having people judging you, that is not associated with an actual, tangible, real life threatening consequence. Nothing bad is gonna happen if you get rejected in front of a woman. Oh, Steven might judge you. The barista might judge you who saw you do the approach. Oh, how scary that is. Yes, 60 to 70% of my clients find their girlfriend or wife through dating apps. I've had a client who works in medicine the other day, a week ago, 2.5 months into the program, find an amazing relationship. He's in his 50s, amazing person through dating apps. But guess what? He also learned the art of approaching. It's actually not an art, it's actually more of a skill set because yes, there's an artistic component to that to the extent that you'll have your individual style, but it is really just a skill set largely that you can acquire. You can get the dates through dating apps or through sending messages on Instagram, but approaching itself will make you feel alive. Andrew Huberman says, reward preceded by effort boosts testosterone. That's the problem with dating apps. If you only keep swiping, you get a reward without effort. That's why dopamine goes up and then it plummets below baseline. With approaches, that never happens. It goes up and then I would argue, I haven't done the brain scans myself, that there's no crash. In 7 years of going out myself and doing approaches, having done thousands of them in person, I don't drink alcohol, no other drugs, no caffeine. I can tell you, there's no crash. Having done this with 300 men from 36 countries, there's no crash from that. You will feel a sense of aliveness you've never felt before, and it doesn't cost money. And no amount of money will ever be able to buy it. With money, yeah, you can buy coaching, which is awesome, but in the end, you'll still have to make a decision to put yourself out there. Coaching is gonna make the whole thing so much easier, like in all areas. You cannot truly become an amazing athlete without really good coaches, and it doesn't have to be me, but you should get help from somebody. But in the end, it's gonna be you who will put themselves out there. Coming back to the quote that I alluded to in the beginning, what if when you die, you get asked, so how was it in heaven? Look around, what if this is actually heaven? What if this was a video game? What if all these people were just NPCs? What if it was just about you? And obviously we can take this to an extreme where you become narcissistic and eventually you want to pivot and realize it really isn't about you. It's about contributing to other people. But you can only truly contribute to other people in a meaningful way if you make yourself happy, because you impact the people around you by your energy massively. And you'll only be able to have great energy if your needs are met. How do you meet your needs? Well, that's partially individual, but it's also partially universal. The need for love and connection is something we all have. And the number one source for happiness in this life is quality relationships. The ones with quality male friends and an amazing, beautiful woman. What if this was your one shot at consciousness? What would you do? What would you do if you couldn't fail? What would you do if you weren't afraid?